This page is the front cover of the Daytona USA official guidebook. It's for the Sega Saturn, and it's part of the Haoh Game Special series, issue number 27, published by Kodansha. The cover is dynamic, showing the iconic Hornet car in a race, with other cars and spectators in the background, all set against a blue sky. The prominent title, Daytona USA, is featured along with Official Guidebook in English. The Sega Saturn logo is clearly displayed at the top. It's a visually exciting cover that immediately shouts out Daytona USA and what to expect inside a guide for the game. This page is the front cover of the Daytona USA official guidebook for the Sega Saturn. It's part of the Haoh Game Special series, number 27. The cover is very dynamic, featuring the iconic Hornet car racing on the track with other cars and a crowd of spectators in the background. And there's a blue sky visible. The words Daytona USA are displayed prominently along with Official Guidebook in English. You can clearly see the Sega Saturn logo right at the top. Overall, it's a visually exciting cover that clearly communicates it's a guide for the Daytona USA game. The next page features a bold statement in large, racing-style font, "Gentlemen, start your engines," spread across 3 lines, each separated by a horizontal rule. This phrase, iconic in motorsports, serves as an exciting and thematic introduction to the guidebook, immediately setting the tone for the Daytona USA experience. It's a simple yet powerful page, acting as a title page or opening statement within the guide. This page presents the Daytona USA official guidebook's publication commentary from Sega AM2 Research, specifically by Suzuki Yu. It reflects on the arcade version of Daytona USA, released in 1994, emphasizing its huge popularity and the use of the Model 23 DCG baseboard, which brought polygon texture mapping for unprecedented realism. They highlight their continuous pursuit of fun since Hang On in 1985, and how they doubled down on this for Daytona USA, focusing on the exhilaration of handling and drifting. Looking ahead to the Sega Saturn version, the commentary mentions their dedication to faithfully recreating the arcade experience while pushing for a complete port. They are particularly proud of capturing the most enjoyable aspects and achieving high quality in the Saturn version, thanks to the development team's efforts and hard work overcoming the challenges of porting. It's also mentioned that this Saturn version offers additional layers of enjoyment for both seasoned arcade players and newcomers. Finally, the commentary introduces this very guidebook as a comprehensive resource for the Daytona USA Sega Saturn Edition, packed with basic data, strategies, and secret techniques covering everything a player needs to know. The page also features a picture and profile of Suzuki Yu, detailing his birth date and various roles at Sega, including positions in AM research and development. This page showcases 2 games and features a profile of Suzuki Yu. The top portion displays a Daytona USA gameplay screenshot, showing the player speeding at 315 km per hour in 11th position on lap 1 out of 4. The car is branded Chelup. The text nearby seems to be a continuation from the previous page, mentioning the release date of June 24, 1995, and Sega AM2 Research, with a comment from the Research and Development Department Manager, Suzuki Yu. Below this is a screenshot from Virtua Fighter 2, depicting a fight scene with 2 characters in an arena. The text under it mentions that the arcade version of Virtua Fighter 2, also created by Mr. Suzuki, was very popular, and that Virtua Fighter 3 is currently in production. Finally, on the right side, there's a picture and profile of Suzuki Yu. It highlights his involvement with Hang On and Space Harrier as pioneering 3D games. After that, it mentions Virtua Fighter as a representative of the next generation of VR conceptual series, indicating his significant role in developing these influential titles. This page is the contents page for the Daytona USA official guidebook. It lays out the structure of the book, dividing it into key sections. The first part is Basic Knowledge, covering all about Hornet, and basic operations and basic techniques. This is followed by the Strategy section, which goes into detail on course guides and course strategies for beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels, and also covers reverse course strategies in the same difficulty tiers. Next, there's a section on hidden techniques, and finally, a special feature section. The special feature includes Daytona Hegemony, History of Daytona USA, a section titled With Na Karaoke Road Race, and a Hornet Papercraft, as a special appendix at the end. Page numbers are clearly listed for each section to help navigate the guide. This page is titled Basic Technique. Under the larger section of Basic Knowledge, as outlined in the contents, the page uses a picture of a pack of Daytona USA race cars to visually represent the topic. The text on the page explains that this section will cover the basics of game operation for faster running in Daytona USA. It emphasizes mastering the 10 listed items in this basic knowledge section as crucial for strategy, suggesting that reading and understanding this section will help players develop their racing tactics. This page is all about the Hornet stock car in Daytona USA and the famous Daytona 500-mile race. It highlights the popularity of NASCAR racing as America's #1 motorsport, featuring around 30 races a year on various circuits, from typical racetracks to city street circuits. The article points out that oval courses, simple circuits based on ellipses, are frequently used, making the races straightforward yet tactically deep. The page then focuses on the Daytona 500, held at the Daytona International Speedway in Florida. It explains the race as a 500-mile event and emphasizes the challenging banked curves that demand intense concentration from drivers. Even slight contact with another car can be dangerous at high speeds, potentially leading to big crashes. The stock car Hornet is detailed in a yellow box, providing its specifications: size, length, height, width, weight, max power, and max speed. Below this, we get front and rear views of the Hornet car. The captions beneath the car images point out that the headlamps are actually air intakes and that only brake lamps are equipped at the rear. Finally, there are action screenshots showcasing the Hornet race car in dynamic racing situations, emphasizing the close quarters, thrilling nature of stock car racing with cars bumping and battling for position. This page continues the deep dive into the Hornet stock car. It mentions that stock car races are action-packed with frequent accidents, and to keep things competitive and fair, there are very strict regulations in place to limit the performance differences between cars. The page explains that weight reduction has become essential in racing, though, surprisingly, the wheels are steel. It also points out that only 3 companies supply engines for these races. Structurally, these cars use a pipe frame chassis and are fitted with a cowl that resembles a production car. This category of racing is designed to keep team running costs down, and the intention is to allow many teams to participate. Ultimately, these races are exciting and unpredictable, with driver skill and luck being key factors in the outcome. Looking at the car itself, the page details that the windows are acrylic on the front and rear, but use netting on the sides. The body is built with an aluminum frame and a carbon monocoque cowl, and importantly, the internal components are different from a standard road car. We get to see top and side views, along with various angled shots of the Hornet race car, giving a good all-around look at its design. This page delves deeper into the Hornet stock car, breaking down key mechanical aspects. It highlights the engine as a V-type 8-cylinder twin-cam, positioned in the front midsection for optimal balance. This naturally aspirated engine pushes performance beyond 800 horsepower, emphasizing the high power demands of stock car racing. Interestingly, the engine suppliers are limited to just 3 companies, reinforcing the strict regulations mentioned on the previous page to maintain fair competition. Moving to the suspension, the car utilizes a straightforward but effective front strut and rear trailing arm configuration, a classic and reliable setup. This choice suggests an emphasis on predictable handling and cornering ability. For tires and wheels, the car is equipped with Goodyear Racing Slick tires, known globally for their high performance. Despite the focus on weight reduction, the wheels are steel and feature a 5-hole design, perhaps a balance between durability and cost-effectiveness within the racing regulations. The underfloor section points out the differential as the mechanism for transmitting power to the drive wheels, confirming the car's front engine, rear drive, father layout, a common configuration for performance vehicles. Finally, the instrument panel description focuses on the steering column area, specifically mentioning the tachometer, a crucial instrument for any race car driver to monitor engine performance. This page is a performance comparison of 10 different Hornet car types in the game. It lists each car with its color scheme and details its mission type: automatic transmission at or manual transmission mount, acceleration, graded A, B, or C, grip, graded A, B, C, or D, and top speed in kilometer per hour. For example, the blue/yellow Hornet is automatic transmission, has B acceleration, C grip, and a top speed of 315 kilometers per hour. It's described as having standard performance suitable for business use. The Blue Hornet, on the other hand, is automatic transmission, boasts a acceleration and a grip, with a slightly lower top speed of 305 kilometers per hour, highlighting stability. Other Hornet types like green and pink are also automatic transmission, with a acceleration but D grip, reaching 325 kilometers per hour and 329 kilometers per hour respectively. The yellowish red and red Hornets are manual transmission with B acceleration, C grip, and A acceleration, a grip respectively, both reaching 325 kilometers per hour and 315 kilometers per hour top speed. Several other color variations like black, orange, light blue, and yellow are also listed with their specific performance ratings and short descriptions, often mentioning grip levels and suitability for various driving styles or track conditions. The page essentially provides a quick guide to choosing a Hornet car based on your preferred handling and performance characteristics. This page details the basic controls and techniques for playing Daytona USA using either a standard control pad or a racing controller. For the control pad, it explains that there are 4 preset control types, and you can also use an original edit mode. It advises players to pay attention to button assignments, particularly for shifting gears and changing viewpoints, and encourages experimentation to find a comfortable setup. The page illustrates a standard controller layout and then presents a table showing 4 control configurations labeled Type IA, Type EB, Type EC, and Typed. These configurations assign various functions like View 1, View 2, View 3, View 4, Brake, Accelerator, Gear First, Gear Second, Gear Third, Gear Fourth, View Down, View Up, Shift Down, and Pause to different buttons, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, L, R, directional buttons, Start button. Moving on to the racing controller, the page notes that steering wheel type controllers are analog, emphasizing the importance of checking the accelerator and brake positions to determine the key layout. It suggests experimenting with different setups while holding the steering wheel to find what feels most natural. Similar to the control pad section, there's an illustration of a racing controller and a table showing 4 control types, Type IA, Type EB, Type EC, Typed, assigning functions like View Up, Brake, Accelerator, View Down, Gear Fourth, Gear Third, Gear Second, Gear First, View Up Down, Shift Up Down, and Pause to buttons, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, Butterfly Shift, Start button. Daytona USA features several game modes. Arcade mode offers timed races similar to the arcade version, with limited car choices. Saturn mode, ideal for extended play, provides various car types, and is suitable for Grand Prix and endurance races. Ranking mode displays lap times across all modes. Option mode allows customization of settings like time limits, difficulty, and controls. The About Game Mode section explains normal, Grand Prix, and endurance modes, suggesting beginners try endurance. The game's interface, including mode and course selection screens, is designed for user-friendliness. This page is all about the cockpit views and gameplay modes in Daytona USA. It explains how the on-screen information differs slightly between arcade and Saturn modes, highlighting elements like lap count, lap times, speed, tachometer, gear position, player position, and a radar display showing course layout and car positions. It points out that even the screen layout changes a bit between arcade and Saturn versions. The page also details Time Attack mode, which is described as a mode where players focus solely on mastering the course and improving their lap times. It mentions that both arcade and Saturn versions offer this mode, and that checkpoint lap times are displayed. Finally, there's a section on the View Change button, or V button, explaining it allows players to switch between 4 different viewpoints during the race. It recommends VR4 high position for beginners, VR3 normal position for intermediate players, and VR2 or VR1 for advanced players. This page on Daytona USA cornering techniques explores strategies to improve racing performance. Out and Out maximizes track width for faster exits. Cornering Basics focuses on smooth, rounded lines for higher speeds. Wall Turn Cornering, for beginners, involves lightly touching walls in the final corners. Braking drift, a technique for automatic transmission at cars, uses brakes and steering to initiate a drift for quick direction changes, requiring precise recovery timing. 414 drift is a manual transmission mount technique using rapid gear changes to induce a drift, suitable for tracks with fewer corners. Finally, a quicker tail slide drift is mentioned for even faster cornering times. The next page delves deeper into cornering techniques in Daytona USA. It begins with countersteer, advising its use especially on low-grip surfaces and after drifts to quickly stabilize the car. It visually demonstrates the difference between cornering with and without countersteering, showing how it helps maintain control and a smoother line. Next, shift down is presented as a technique for manual transmission cars only. It suggests downshifting before corners, where steering alone isn't enough and drifting is too slow, particularly effective for challenging corners. Loss reduction cornering technique focuses on maintaining momentum through corners, especially in automatic cars. It emphasizes avoiding excessive braking to minimize speed loss. Finally, if you miss a corner, gives advice for recovery. It recommends lifting off the accelerator to regain stability and adjust your racing line if you've taken a corner too wide. The next page is titled Strategy Edition and is all about course and driving in Daytona USA. It serves as a guide to understanding the strategy section of the book. This section explains corner-by-corner line taking, offering advice on how to drive to clear the game, secure first place, and improve your time attack performance. It uses a specific corner example called Furaggio curve to illustrate these driving techniques with screenshots from the game, likely showing different approaches and tips for navigating that particular turn. This page is a course guide for the 777 Speedway track in Daytona, USA, labeled as a beginner course. The map layout is displayed clearly, highlighting key sections of the circuit, like the main stand, the roulette curve, the Royal Straight, and the Shuffle Woods, as well as the pit area. The track is described as a circuit where 40 stock cars compete, implying a crowded and action-packed race. The difficulty is rated with 2 stars, indicating its beginner level. There's also a small screenshot from the game showing in-game racing action. This page continues the beginner course guide for the 777 Speedway. It provides course data such as the track length being 1,560 meters, 8, 20, or 80 laps options, and a full grid of 40 cars. Target lap time is 17 seconds, and goal time is 2 minutes 30 seconds. The AM2 best lap time is also noted as 15 seconds 77. The page mentions that the beginner course is a super short oval circuit that can be completed in about 20 seconds per lap. While it seems simple, it emphasizes that oval courses are deeper than they appear when you actually race on them. Mistakes are not easily forgiven, and you are always fighting to get in front of rivals. It describes oval races as intense battles that keep players on edge, focusing on overtaking and maintaining position. The page also highlights specific sections of the track marked on the course map. Million Slot Arch, Billiards Crash, and Sonic Walls. Finally, the course highlights section emphasizes the thrill of oval racing, especially with 40 cars battling it out, and highlights the exciting races that can unfold. The screenshots depict close racing action and crashes, typical of Daytona's intense gameplay, and points out that close battles with rivals and chaotic crashes are part of the fun and appeal of Daytona USA. This page details the Dinosaur Canyon course, described as an advanced or intermediate level track, and a public road course filled with technical corners. It's quite a step up from the beginner oval we looked at before. The course map highlights specific sections with dinosaur-themed names. We have the Tirano Tunnel, Tricera Road, Stego Slope, Brachio Curve, Lake Archelon, and the Ruins of Jura. Judging by the 4-star difficulty rating, this canyon course will likely be a challenging drive, with plenty of twists and turns, demanding precise technical skills compared to the simpler oval track. The small screenshot in the corner gives a glimpse of the racing action, with the game interface showing speed and gear shifts, and a sign pointing towards Holy Canyon, which might be the Western name for this course. The next page dives deeper into the intermediate course, Dinosaur Canyon, explaining it's built through deep valleys and public roads. Originally called Holy Canyon, it was renamed Dinosaur Canyon after dinosaur fossils were found during construction. The guide highlights that this course is designed to teach you the techniques used in Daytona USA. Mastering this intermediate track will prepare you for tackling the more advanced courses and achieving faster times. The page points out a few key areas, like the Toronto Tunnel, which is noted for its echoing V8 engine sounds. You can also spot ancient ruins scattered around, which are a feature of this intermediate level course. For exploration, Tricera Road is mentioned as having hidden paths worth checking out. Finally, the guide suggests practicing your drifting skills in the final corner of this course to really master your technique. The map section calls out locations like Ptera Power Station, Brontosaur's Tail, and the Fossil of Dragon. The data section at the bottom gives you some course stats, like the total length of 3,888 meters, options for 5, 10, or 20 laps, a 20-car entry limit, and target times to aim for, a lap time of 46 seconds, a goal time of 3 minutes 10 seconds, and even M2 staff's best lap time of 41 seconds 45 milliseconds. This page showcases the expert-level course, Seaside Street Galaxy, advertised as the longest seaside course in driving game history. This course is marked as a 4-star difficulty, indicating a significant challenge compared to the previous intermediate course, Dinosaur Canyon. A detailed map of the Seaside Street Galaxy is presented, clearly labeling various sections of the track with interesting names. These locations include landmarks like Moon Lighthouse, Teardrop of Moon, Cosmos Street, the Statue of Jeffrey, Asteroid Belt, Starry Sky Hall, Sirius Skyscraper, Cassiopeia City, Southern Crossroad, and Quasar Bends. The names give a sense of a celestial or space-themed environment integrated into a seaside setting, promising a visually and technically demanding racing experience. This page delves into the expert-level course, Seaside Street Galaxy, expanding on its reputation as the longest seaside course ever in a driving game. Starting from Starlight Bridge, the course is a grand tour around Orion Bay, taking about 2 minutes per lap. It's known for its sprawling layout and numerous checkpoints, offering scenic views from locations like the Sirius Skyscraper and Pegasus Statue. The course map highlights various sections, including Comet Curve, Planet Harbor, Meteor Tower, Starlight Bridge, Andromeda Beach, Space Shuttle Launch Site, Sasa, Saturn's Ring, and Sailing Ship. Gameplay screenshots illustrate the challenging nature, pointing out demanding corners and narrow sections where careful driving and avoiding collisions are crucial. Interestingly, the guide reveals that Sasa, referenced in the course name and a track section, is short for Sega Aeronautics and Space Administration. Winning the race apparently comes with a spectacular grand prize, a trip to the moon aboard a Sasa space shuttle. The data section provides course stats like total length and lap times, but the main focus is clearly on the epic scale and challenging nature of the Seaside Street Galaxy course. This page introduces the beginner course, 777 Speedway in Daytona, USA. It's described as a simple oval course where mistakes are fatal. The page details the course specifications, noting it's 8 laps for normal, 20 for Grand Prix, and a whopping 80 laps for endurance races, accommodating up to 40 cars. The AM2 development team's best lap time is also highlighted. The page features a map of the 777 Speedway, marked with letters A, B, C, and D, although these are not explicitly explained in detail. Below the map are 2 sections, Start Method and Pit In. The Start Method section explains it's a rolling start. You need to complete 1 lap behind the pace car before the race officially begins when you cross the start line. It advises to keep the accelerator pressed during the sign countdown. The Pit In section points out that the pit lane is on the left side just before the start line. It suggests that successfully using this pit lane can be a shortcut to the first corner. It also warns that the grip is low near the pit exit, making sharp steering dangerous and likely to cause slipping. Screenshots illustrate both the start and pit in procedures in the game. This guide provides tips for the beginner course, a simple oval track. It emphasizes avoiding collisions due to a large field of cars. For optimal lap times, choose the mount manual transmission car, preferably yellow or orange. At automatic transmission, users should select the black car. The course is accessible to all skill levels, with skillful exit from the final corner, billiard crash, being crucial. Key course features include a unique rolling start with cars circling. The main stand offers immediate close racing. Roulette Curve offers high-speed thrills, while Royal Street allows for speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. The Million Slot Arch precedes the challenging Billiard Crash Corner. The guide includes screenshots of these sections and ranking screens, highlighting the exciting and intense racing experience. This page continues the course guide, focusing on the main stand front section, which is rated as a 3-star difficulty. For beginners using automatic transmission, the guide advises approaching the corner slowly and steering gently to the left, while being mindful of other cars and aiming for the inside line. It mentions that the steering feel is unique to this game and that the right side is a wall, while the left is a runoff area, so reckless driving is discouraged for safety. For manual transmission users, the guide introduces more advanced tactics. Once you're comfortable with the car, you can aim for an Invada or full throttle approach, but be cautious of the runoff area. If you stray into the runoff area, it's crucial to immediately lift off the accelerator, as acceleration will easily cause you to lose grip. The advanced tips include sticking tightly to the inside line and making fine adjustments to your racing line to clear the corner at full throttle. The guide concludes by stating, the optimal record line is achieved by clearing the corner at full throttle without hesitation, sticking tightly to the inside, and if you can't maintain this line easily, aiming for the fastest lap will be very challenging. This page continues the course guide, now focusing on the roulette curve section, rated as a beginner-friendly 2 stars difficulty. The guide offers strategies for both automatic, and manual mount transmissions. For automatic transmission, the advice is to approach the curve at full throttle. It notes that you'll be entering the curve already at a high speed, around 290 kilometers per hour. So careful line selection is important. The basic strategy is to stick to the inside line from the pit lane merge and maintain it, which should be manageable. However, if you enter the inside line too early and misjudge the timing, you might hit the outside wall. In such cases, lift off the accelerator to recover. For manual transmission, the basics remain similar to AT. The guide explains that even in mount, the line strategy doesn't drastically change. It recommends entering the corner like with AT, sticking tightly to the inside, and exiting smoothly to the outside. The fastest line involves clearing the corner at full throttle without hesitation, adhering to the inside, and if this is too difficult, achieving a fast lap time might be challenging. This page is a course guide focusing on the billiard crash section, rated as a 2-star difficulty. It details strategies for tackling this corner using both automatic transmission, AT, and manual transmission, MT. For basic AT strategy, the guide recommends using a wall turn technique to navigate the corner. It emphasizes that this is a challenging corner where going straight can lead to a crash. The key is to use the right side wall of the track to control the car. Approach the corner, and once past the signboard, steer left sharply. This will bring the car into contact with the wall, almost parallel to it. Although speed will drop, even to around 300 kilometers per hour, you can still clear the corner. Moving on to the applied mount strategy, the guide suggests using drifting. While wall turns are acceptable, drifting is presented as a more advanced technique. To drift, the advice is to approach the corner taking a line to the far right of the course. Start braking around the signboard, using a 414 gear shift pattern for engine braking. Turn sharply into the corner, initiating a drift. Maintain the drift, and then straighten up the car as you exit the corner. The braking point is indicated at the signboard, aiming to reduce speed to around 300 kilometers per hour in 4 seconds before entering, focusing on drifting to the right. This page is a course guide for the D pit, also known as the pit lane, in Daytona, USA. It's marked as a 4-star difficulty course. The page offers strategies for both automatic transmission, AT, and manual transmission, mount, users. For AT players, the guide recommends a wall turn technique, emphasizing that going straight will likely result in a crash. It breaks down the strategy into steps. First, steer towards the wall at the designated cutoff point. Then, go straight towards the outside of the corner. Next, steer left again at another wall cutoff point. And finally, maintain your steering, adjusting as needed to keep on the racing line. For mount players, it introduces a more advanced technique for normal laps, focusing on exiting the pit lane effectively. It advises approaching from the outside and steering if you get too close to the left wall. If you are close to the left wall, steer. The goal is to position your car on the black line on the right side of the pit lane as you exit the final corner. There's a section titled Fastest Code Line, which suggests this strategy is for high-level play and involves corner cutting. It recommends referencing the mount strategy to accurately navigate and exit the pit lane, encouraging practice. Lastly, at the bottom right, a question is posed. If you master this, is it certain? Implying mastery of this technique leads to success. This page details the medium-level course, Dinosaur Canyon in Daytona, USA. The course is set for 4 laps in normal mode, 10 for Grand Prix, and a lengthy 40 laps for endurance races. It can accommodate up to 20 cars, and the AM2 research team's fastest lap time is recorded as 41 seconds and 45 milliseconds. The page highlights driving techniques for technical corners and shows a map of the Dinosaur Canyon track marked with letters from A to F. Moving on to the start method, it explains races begin with signal lights, and although you start in 20th position, using a rocket start can quickly get you ahead. The starting grid is at the back of the pack, but you can aim for a rocket start, especially since there's a long straight in front. For pit lane, it's noted that like the beginner course, the pit lane extends from just before the start line to the left. The advice is that you don't really need to pull sharply into the pit lane as it's parallel to the straights. It's emphasized to be careful of the barriers along the main course straights and pit lane. Pit work won't change your car's performance. During pit stops, the work itself takes only a few seconds, but you'll lose time on the straight while other cars are at full speed. The advanced Daytona USA course requires strategic cornering, especially after the Toronto Tunnel. Players should anticipate upcoming corners when setting lines, often utilizing drift. Car selection depends on your goals. Orange mount for stability and time attacks, yellow mount for fastest times, and black at for automatic players. The intermediate course features scenic continuous corners, but players should focus on driving to avoid crashes. Key corner strategies include staying inside the Brachio curve, staying outside in the Toronto Tunnel, and using an out-and-out line on Turricara Road. The Putera power plant requires a powerful drift, Stego slope demands deceleration and precision, and the Dragon Fossil Stone corner is a slippery right turn, perfect for practicing drift. This page details the Brachio curve section of a course, providing driving advice for Daytona USA players. It breaks down strategies for both automatic transmission, AT, and manual transmission, MOUNT, cars. For basic AT driving, it emphasizes the need for subtle adjustments when approaching the high-speed banked corner. The guide advises keeping to the inside line, making small steering inputs, chon, and maintaining this inside line even when entering the tunnel. The guide then covers applied mount strategies, noting that the line is generally the same as with AT, but you can push further to the inside. It suggests taking an even tighter line and even driving on the grass momentarily to maintain speed and avoid speed reduction through the curve. The visual guide shows 4 steps: keeping to the inside, slight steering, spotting the tunnel, and driving straight through. The optimal record line is highlighted, showing an extremely inside line through the curve, potentially cutting onto the grass to maximize speed. Finally, it cautions drivers to be careful of the curb. This page continues the course guide, now focusing on the Toronto Tunnel section of the track. It's labeled as a medium difficulty course. For automatic transmission, the guide highlights being careful in the tunnel curve. It advises that after entering the tunnel, the left window pillar will obscure your view, and to be aware of a slight right curve. The key is to stick to the inside line through this curve. It visually shows 4 steps for AT driving: keeping to the outside initially, then gently steering into the inside, spotting the tunnel entrance, and maintaining the inside line within the tunnel. Moving on to manual transmission strategies, it suggests that while the fundamental approach is similar to AT, you have more freedom. It advises aiming for an out-and-out line and being mindful of the tunnel walls. The goal is to aim for the next corner after exiting the tunnel. The guide also mentions that the corner ahead is not as severe as the AT-specific advice, suggesting you can take a tighter line. Finally, the guide points out the fastest record line for both AT and mount is essentially the same: an inside line. It ends with a simple takeaway: remember the simple line. This page continues the course guide and introduces the Turricara Road course, which is marked as medium hard difficulty. For automatic transmission, the guide focuses on utilizing this curve effectively. It outlines a 4-step approach. First, enter the straight line. Next, move towards the outside of the corner. Then, steer appropriately as you ascend the slope. And finally, aim for the green stone marker to navigate the corner. Switching to manual transmission, The guide offers advice for when you miss a shift down. While maintaining the automatic transmission line is generally acceptable, the guide acknowledges that the speed difference in manual might necessitate slight line adjustments. If you happen to enter the corner from the inside, the recommendation is to swiftly shift down to third gear to prevent a crash and recover your racing line. Finally, the guide points out that the fastest racing line for setting records is essentially the same line used for automatic transmission. The key takeaway for this corner is emphasized as being the exit point. This page continues the strategy guide for the medium-hard difficulty course, Trikara Road, focusing on the section called D. Patera Power Plant Front. For automatic transmission, the guide explains how to drift cleanly through the corner using a four-step approach. Firstly, you start drifting as you exit the corners. Next, brake to initiate the drift. Then, maintain the drift through the curve. Finally, once you've reached the peak of the slope, aim to finish the drift and exit the corner smoothly. Moving on to manual transmission. The guide advises using the same drifting technique as with automatic transmission. It highlights key actions for manual drivers: shifting down gears while steering simultaneously, maintaining the drift state, and quickly exiting the corner. It mentions that a 414 drift technique is effective, and adjusting the shift timing in first gear can enable cornering at speeds around 300 km per hour. Finally, the guide touches on achieving the fastest record line, confirming that the 414 drift is optimal. It emphasizes minimizing drift loss to maximize speed and performance. This page continues the course guide, now for the Stego Hill stage, and focuses on cornering techniques. For automatic transmission, the key is to maintain a speed of 240 km per hour and use an out-and-out approach to cornering. The guide details a four-step process: entering from the outside, braking effectively to reduce speed to 240 km per hour, swiftly moving to the inside of the corner, and then exiting to the outside. For manual transmission, the guide suggests using shift-based speed adjustments. While the line to take is similar to automatic, downshifting to third gear before the corner and immediately shifting back to fourth after exiting is recommended for optimal speed. It mentions that with this technique and a good line, cornering at speeds above 250 km per hour is achievable. The 414 drift technique is again highlighted as the best approach, similar to the previous course section. This page continues the course guide, this time focusing on the Dragon Falls corner. It's all about drifting here, especially if you're using automatic transmission. The guide breaks down the automatic technique into 4 steps, starting with approaching from the outside of the corner. Then, as you reach the rock-cut part of the corner, you initiate a drift by steering sharply inwards, and then countersteering to control the slide. You need to hold that drift through the corner, and then straighten up your car as you approach the exit. For manual transmission, drifting is still the name of the game, but with some gear work involved. The recommended line through the corner is much the same as with automatic, but it suggests braking and downshifting to third gear as you enter the corner, and then immediately shifting back up to fourth gear as you exit. The guide mentions the 414 drift technique again, saying it's the best approach for speed and stability, and if you execute it well and use the full track width, you can take this corner at over 300 km per hour. This page showcases the Seaside Street Galaxy course, which is described as an upper-level track with challenging corners and a high-speed public road circuit feel. For races here, you can expect 2 laps for normal races, 5 for Grand Prix, and a lengthy 20 laps for endurance events, accommodating up to 30 racers. The fastest lap recorded by AM2 is 1 minute 28 seconds and 95 milliseconds. The page details the start procedure, which is a signal start, just like in the intermediate class, and mentions the importance of rocket starts to gain positions right away. It also highlights the pit stop, noting it's surprisingly easy to miss on this upper-level course, which is set for 2 laps in normal mode, meaning you can usually complete a race without pitting. However, the right-hand lane is the pit lane, offering a shortcut during the final lap if needed. The text also points out that if your car is damaged, you'll be forced into a pit stop, resulting in lost time. This guide offers expert advice for advanced courses, emphasizing track memorization and precise braking/drifting. The long, complex tracks demand driving skill. Car selection favors grip-focused cars, especially manual transmission, and recommends orange, handling, yellow, speed, or black, beginner-friendly models. The expert courses are visually rich, featuring moonlit towers, meteor towers, and numerous landmarks. Notable locations include the Sirius Magic Castle, Overpass, Starry Sky, Jeffrey Statue, Landmark, Pegasus Ranch, Horses, Sasa Space Shuttle, Potential Moon Trip, Signboards, /posters, Hidden Details, and Planet Harbor. Challenging. This page is a course guide for the Starlight Bridge Cassiopeia City track, rated as a 3-star difficulty course. The guide focuses on strategy, especially for automatic transmission, highlighting that early turn-in is crucial. It points out the scurve before Cassiopeia City as a key challenge, advising players to use an out-in line and to avoid braking. The guide breaks down the corner into 4 steps. First, start from the outside, being mindful of the inside curbs. Second, turn left as soon as you see the inside of the corner. Third, abruptly turn right at a specific point. Finally, maintain the right turn and go full throttle. It emphasizes keeping the steering wheel turned right and the accelerator fully pressed. For manual transmission, the advice is to stick to the basic line strategy, and is still recommended. If you find yourself going wide on the exit, use acceleration to correct your line and maintain a rightward steering angle. The fastest line, particularly for grippy cars like those with orange handling, is an in-line, aiming for an exit speed exceeding 300 km per hour. It also mentions that using in-bent cars might be suitable depending on the vehicle type. This page continues the course guide for the Cassiopeia City track, diving into advanced strategies particularly for automatic transmission cars. It highlights a key shortcut in the course. The guide breaks down how to execute this shortcut in 4 steps, involving straight driving, navigating through a gap in a structure, driving over green stones, and braking. This shortcut seems to be about efficiently cutting through a section of the track to gain time. Moving on to applied manual transmission strategies, the guide suggests that the basic line strategy remains similar for manual cars. However, it introduces alternative racing lines for final laps. These options include aggressively cutting into the pit road, staying on the main track, or taking a wider outside line. The guide suggests that theoretically, taking the outside line might be faster in the final lap. Finally, the page touches on the fastest racing line overall. It emphasizes that the basic line strategy is still fundamental, even for manual transmission. In the final lap, it recommends using the inside pit road line to minimize distance, advising to go full throttle throughout. The next page continues the course guide, this time for the Sirius Mountain Asteroid Belts track, which is marked as a tough 5-star difficulty. It focuses on navigating an S-curve using drift techniques, detailing both automatic transmission, AT, and manual transmission, MOUNT, strategies. For AT cars, the guide explains a step-by-step approach to drifting through the scurve. It starts with braking before the green stones, then drifting by aiming for the inside line. Countersteering is key to get through the scurve cleanly. They even say if you manage to get through this section, you can breathe easy. Moving on to mount cars, the guide suggests that while the basic racing line is similar to AT, using 4th, 3rd, and 4th gear for speed control is a stable approach. They point out braking into the curve, drifting at around 260 km per hour, and using countersteer to straighten out after the drift. Finally, for the fastest record line, they recommend a 414 drift technique. This involves braking slightly before the green stones, aiming for a tight inside line, and then going full throttle on the accelerator once you're through the drift. This page continues the course guide for the Asteroid Belt course, specifically the Cosmos Street section, which is marked as a 4-star difficulty. It's all about mastering a drift through a tricky curve, and breaks down strategies for both automatic transmission, AT, and manual transmission, MOUNT, cars. For AT players, the guide recommends a step-by-step approach. It starts by braking after cresting a hill before the curve, then initiating a drift, aiming for the inside line of the corner. Maintaining this inside line throughout the drift is key, and then you should accelerate again once you're heading downhill to exit the curve. For those using mount cars and aiming for faster times, there's an applied strategy that involves a 41 drift technique. This means briefly shifting down to 1st gear before the corner and then quickly shifting back up to 4th to initiate a drift. The guide also mentions it's okay to run slightly onto the grass on the inside of the corner to tighten your line and maintain speed. Finally, for the absolute fastest line, they advise using the grass to slide the car through the corner while maintaining a speed of 250 km per hour or more. They emphasize the importance of precise steering and accelerator control to pull this off successfully. This page continues the course guide for the Cosmos Street section. Still at a 4-star difficulty rating, it's diving deeper into tackling a specific, tricky curve, offering advice for both automatic and manual transmission drivers. For automatic cars, the guide emphasizes being careful to avoid going off track, especially at the right-hand curve after the hill. They suggest using an out-and-out line and initiating a drift from the outside. It warns that even a slight misjudgment can lead to a course-out penalty. They highlight that the following left curve is also challenging and advise using gentle braking and acceleration while drifting. For manual transmission, there's an applied technique focused on gear shifting. It mentions that while the general line is similar to automatic, the second left curve is faster in third gear. The key strategy here is a 4-14 drift. This involves quickly dropping down to first gear just before the corner, and then immediately shifting back up to fourth to initiate the drift. The guide stresses the importance of straightening the car after the drift. It reiterates that the 414 drift is the easiest and fastest method if you get the hang of it. Finally, for the fastest line, it repeats the 414 drift technique, aiming for cornering speeds of 280 km per hour or even pushing for over 300 km per hour. It concludes by saying, practice is essential, and importantly, advises against going onto the grass on the inside of the corner. The next page continues the course guide, now moving on to the Moon Lighthouse Moon Terrace section, which is rated as 4 stars difficulty. This section focuses on a hairpin corner leading to the Quasar Bend. For automatic transmission, the guide advises planning your route ahead. It highlights this hairpin corner as crucial, warning that incorrect turns will heavily impact your time. The guide suggests approaching from the outside, using red markers as a guide, and braking to drift. Maintain a speed of around 250,280 km per hour before braking. Then drift along the center line while reducing speed to about 220,250 km per hour. After drifting, straighten your car and accelerate again. For manual transmission, the guide suggests an advanced technique for cornering. It mentions using the 41 drift, which involves downshifting to first gear just before the corner, then immediately shifting back up to fourth to drift. This is presented as a faster method, aiming for corner clears. The ultimate goal for the fastest line is to use this 41 drift technique to achieve cornering speeds of 260 km per hour or even higher. The guide emphasizes that mastering the drift and straightening the car after is key to achieving these speeds. The Quasar Bend Southern Crossroad course, rated 2 stars, is detailed for both automatic and manual transmission, MT. For automatic, the guide emphasizes the standing start and navigating the complex 4-curve bend. The first 2 corners utilize an out-and-out line with full acceleration, but the third requires braking or drifting due to an uphill grade. Light braking exiting the second corner initiates a drift for the third. The standing start at the fourth corner needs careful attention. Manual transmission focuses on standing starts and drifting. Corner 1 uses an out-and-out line with off-throttle steering, and light braking initiates a drift towards the inner side. Shifting to third gear can aid smoothness. The guide highlights the importance of light braking at the fourth curve to prevent excessive drifting. The fastest record line suggests mount strategy and grip driving for the first half. For the final corner, intentionally driving onto the grass for a controlled drift is recommended for faster times. The next page introduces the Meteor Tower Andromeda Coast course, a 1-star difficulty track. This guide offers strategies for both automatic transmission, AT, and manual transmission, MT. For AT, it suggests that while wall turns are acceptable, there are 2 main approaches at the point where you exit the Starlight Bridge and roads intersect. One method is to use an out-and-out line while releasing the accelerator from the downhill section. The other, wall turn approach, involves hitting the wall just before the road cone at a shallow angle and continuing to drive. The guide shows a sequence of images illustrating this, emphasizing moving to the outside, cutting sharply to the inside, keeping the wheel right, and clearing the corner narrowly on the outside. The mount strategy section points out that gear shifting isn't necessary for this gentle curve, and you can largely follow the AT strategy of out and out. It also mentions wall contact, suggesting that if you're using a car type like black or orange, which doesn't lose much speed from wall contact, wall turns can be quite effective for faster times. Finally, the fastest record line advice recommends that if you have a car with good grip, it's better to avoid wall turns and clear the corner normally. It advises using the full course width and maintaining full throttle for a clean and surprisingly fast run. The Saturn Ring Saza course, a 4-star difficulty track, offers strategies for both automatic (AT) and manual transmission (MOUNT) vehicles. The AT strategy focuses on maintaining 300 km per hour, emphasizing early drifting before SASA, brake when the right side fence appears, drift, and countersteer to accelerate. The MOUNT strategy utilizes the 414 drift technique. Drop to third gear, then fourth to initiate the drift at SASA. This involves approaching from the outside, shifting from fourth to first, then back to fourth while hugging the inside. The optimal line uses the 414 drift, emphasizing the timing of dropping to first and then shifting to fourth gear for a high-speed drift, with target speeds exceeding 315 km per hour in some sections and 260 to 290 km per hour during drift segments. This page is a course guide for the Comet Curve Planet Harbor track, which is rated as a 5-star difficulty course. It provides advanced racing strategies for both automatic transmission (AT) and manual transmission (MOUNT) setups. For the basic AT strategy, the focus is on decisive countersteering. The guide points out the braking point is just before the corner at the red signboard. It advises braking at this point, turning the steering wheel left then right to straighten the car for a controlled slide. The target speed reduction is around 220 km per hour or less. It emphasizes that accelerating after drifting is acceptable, but warns to be careful of spinning out. The applied MOUNT strategy, it promotes using shift operations to their full potential. It suggests that when using MOUNT, different driving methods are effective for corner exits compared to AT. The technique involves using second gear plus braking or shifting back to fourth gear for drifting and smoothly accelerating on corner exit. The page also uses numbered screenshots to illustrate key points, highlighting important techniques such as braking at the red signboard, reducing speed, maintaining speed at 200 km per hour, and accelerating out of the corner while drifting at 230 km per hour or more, and accelerating while exiting the corner. It mentions drifting at speeds over 315 km per hour in certain sections, and around 230 km per hour for drift corners. This beginner's guide to the 777 Speedway reverse course emphasizes its simplicity, despite potential for collisions. With only 3 corners, the narrow track and 39 cars increase the likelihood of crashes. Time attack mode is recommended for a clean race. The guide suggests varying racing lines, utilizing both inside and outside corners, and notes the absence of pit stops. Target lap times are provided, including a fastest lap of 15.91 seconds. 2 cornering techniques are detailed for the final corner: billiard crash and wall turn. Billiard crash involves a shallow angle wall hit for a faster exit. Wall turn is easier, but risks head-on collisions due to unpredictable oncoming traffic. This guide provides cornering strategies for a reverse race course, focusing on 3 corners: B roulette curve, C main stand, and D pits. The B roulette curve, medium difficulty, encourages full throttle banked cornering, aiming for the center line and a mid-in racing line, even at high speeds, while considering opposing traffic. The C main stand, easy, emphasizes hugging the inside green curb. Staying tight avoids collisions, while running wide is safer than clipping the curb too sharply. The D pit corner, most difficult, advises drifting inside the pit road to cut the corner. However, sticking to the normal racing line is ultimately faster, despite the reduced risk of collisions with opposing cars. Early braking and drifting are key for a smooth execution, even though staying wide could result in collisions. This page is an advanced course reverse race strategy guide highlighting the challenges of racing in reverse on this track. It points out that reverse races feel very different from normal races due to the altered corner entry angles. It mentions that the high and low elevation changes are more pronounced in reverse, making uphill right turns and downhill left turns feel very different. The guide highlights key points on the course map marked A, B, C, and D. For reverse race highlights, it notes that in reverse, the correct route can be confusing, emphasizing that just going straight might lead to crashes, and advising to turn left at a specific point. Another highlight mentions an S-curve after a tunnel, which feels different in reverse, but visually it seems you can just go full throttle. The section on a Dragon's Big Rock, which seems to be corner A, discusses the final corner in a normal race, now the starting corner in reverse. It advises to rev the engine high and do a spin turn at the starting point. For the Dragon's Big Rock corner, It suggests drifting with braking during the first lap and from the second lap onwards, using braking drifts similar to a normal race, but perhaps using a 414 drift technique to get through it. It also advises to aim for the left side barrier as a guide for drifting, mentioning that braking drift speeds should be around 260 km per hour, and 414 drifts around 290 km per hour or more. This guide details reverse course strategies for specific corners. Corner B, Stego Hill, 3-star difficulty, involves a thrilling uphill drift at around 280 km per hour, or a grip-focused approach at 260 km per hour using braking drifts. Corner C, Ptera Power Plant, 4-star, is a challenging downhill section. Reduce speed to 230 km per hour and aggressively slide the car using techniques like 414 shifting for manual cars, while watching out for poor visibility. Corner D, Brachio Curve, 3-star, allows for full throttle through the downhill, potentially exceeding 330 km per hour. Drive slightly to the outside to avoid collisions and utilize the inside grass if needed for tighter lines. The next page is an expert guide to mastering the reverse course of Seaside Street Galaxy in Daytona, USA, which is presented as a final test for master players. It emphasizes that even drivers fast on the normal course will find the reverse course challenging and requiring significantly more skill, especially around areas like Teo Tower and Cassiopeia City, where braking points and lines drastically differ. The guide states that the reverse and normal courses are essentially completely different. It advises players to practice in time attack mode to learn their own driving style and aim to become reverse course champions. The page highlights key points of interest during reverse runs and details Corner A, Comet Curve, which is rated 4 stars in difficulty. Comet Curve is identified as a difficult starting point for reverse runs. It warns of spinouts from the start and being unexpectedly thrown into the most difficult part of the regular course, Planet Haoh. The guide recommends using braking drifts from the first lap to navigate this area, aiming for a speed of 190 km per hour or less before drifting to clear the corner. For manual transmission cars, it advises using second gear plus braking to initiate the drift, allowing the car to drift outwards, and then further braking if needed for adjustments. Target lap times for the reverse course are mentioned as 1 minute 45 seconds and a fastest lap time of 1 minute 32 seconds. The overall goal time is 3 minutes 45 seconds. This guide details how to master the reverse course of Seaside Street Galaxy, breaking it down into sections. Section B, Space Shuttle to Sasa, 4-star difficulty, requires careful scurve navigation. Brake to 280 km per hour, then 240 km per hour for the Sasa corner, using drift techniques and accelerator control. Aim for a 250 km per hour plus exit speed. Section C, Cezanne Crossroad, 3-star, focuses on the inside wall. Approach the sharp right-angle corner at top speed, aiming to drift and reduce speed to 260 km per hour. Avoid accelerating into the subsequent scurve, focusing on steering timing. Aim for a light wall touch. Section D, Moon's Teardrop, 4-star, centers on drifting using the moonlight pole as reference. Approach the preceding scurve at 260 km per hour. Pre-brake and drift the corner at approximately 200 km per hour. Memorization is key, with gear suggestions for manual cars. The reverse course guide details sections E, F, and G. Section East, Cosmos Street, is a 4-star hairpin turn with limited visibility. Manual cars should downshift to 3rd gear early. Section F, Jeffrey's Statue, also 4-star, is a downhill drift section. Brake early and approach from the outside. Experienced drivers can attempt a 414 drift. Automatic cars should use a central line, drift, and countersteer while accelerating downhill. Section G, Sirius Skyscraper, is the 5-star climax, navigating an S-curve inside a building. Manual cars should enter in 3rd gear, accelerate, downshift to 2nd gear for the final left curve, and drift. Automatic cars require strong braking. Enter the building at approximately 260 km per hour and the final corner at 200 km per hour before drifting, avoiding the right wall. This page is focused on Urawaza Hen, or Secret Techniques Edition, for Daytona USA. The page introduces hidden techniques within the game, specifically for the Daytona USA arcade and Saturn versions, as well as new elements added to the Saturn version. It mentions that Daytona fans will find unmissable scoops that will make them scream. The image shows in-game screenshots of Daytona USA featuring cars racing on the track. This page reveals an incredible hidden feature in Daytona USA Saturn: racing with a horse. It's called Daytona UMA, which literally means Daytona horse. To unlock this, you need to play in Saturn mode at normal difficulty or higher and achieve first place on every single course. Once you do this, Daytona UMA will appear as a selectable car in the vehicle selection screen. The page highlights that you can actually race against other cars using this horse. It's described as a chestnut-colored horse for automatic transmission and a gray horse for manual transmission. Interestingly, the viewpoint during the race is fixed to view 2, which is the driver's eye view. There are screenshots showing the horse racing on the track, even appearing in the ranking screens. Apparently, the Daytona UMA also makes an appearance in the attract mode demos of the game. This is a really cool and unexpected secret feature for Daytona USA fans. The next page elaborates on the Daytona UMA, emphasizing its special traits in Daytona USA. It highlights 3 key differences. Firstly, the horse maintains speed even when running on the grass. Secondly, crashing with the horse results in a horse neighing sound. And lastly, being a horse, it cannot perform pit stops. The page then moves into course or strategy guides for each difficulty level when using Daytona UMA. For the beginner course, the advice is to stick to the inner side of the main stand section and accelerate through it. For the intermediate course, drifting is recommended, especially around the roulette curve and billiard curve sections. Finally, for the advanced course, a shortcut at the quasar bend on the left side of this curve is suggested to shorten lap times, but it's noted that overall, the horse will still be slower than a car on longer courses. The page includes screenshots demonstrating these tips on the beginner, intermediate, and advanced courses. This page reveals some secret techniques for Daytona USA. The first trick, Secret Technique 2, shows you how to instantly increase the number of available cars. During the game title screen, you press up LLR, right, CY, and start, and this will add 6 playable cars in Saturn mode. It notes this command may also have been present in the Saturn version of Virtua Fighter, and is useful if you've lost your backup data, but you still can't use the horse. Secret technique: 3 addresses using Daytona UMA immediately in Saturn mode. While the previous command doesn't let you use Daytona UMA, this one does. By entering A plus A, B plus X, Z plus start on the game title screen, you can use Daytona UMA right away in Saturn mode. This command also adds more cars, making it a handy trick. Finally, Secret Technique 4 unveils Daytona UMA 2. To access Daytona UMA 2 in the car select screen, you first need to achieve first place on all courses in Saturn mode at normal difficulty or higher. Then, in endurance mode, you must take first place using the horse. Once you've done this, Daytona UMA 2 will appear in the car select screen. It mentions that Daytona UMA 2 is slightly faster than the original horse, and has a parent-child theme in its circuit racing. This page is all about the Daytona UMA horses in Daytona USA, revealing their secret performance data and how to get the best out of them. It introduces 4 different Daytona UMA horses, each with unique characteristics. First, there's Daytona UMA T. It is described as having good handling but a lower top speed, making it suitable for beginners. Then there is Daytona UMA 2T, which has an even lower top speed but is easier to control, again suggested for novice players. Next up is Daytona UMA White, which is said to be good for drifting and can go quite fast with drift techniques. Finally, Daytona UMA 2 White is described as drift-focused but with poor grip, making it harder to control and more for pro players. The page also details a rocket start technique to dramatically improve your lap times. It explains how to rev your engine to 6,500 revolutions per minute by holding the brake just before the start, and then releasing the brake and going full throttle the moment the signal turns green. If timed correctly, it will give you a rocket start without wheel spin and cut valuable seconds off your time compared to a normal start. It claims you can gain a 1-second advantage using this technique, which is quite significant for time attacks. This page details secret techniques for customizing your Daytona USA experience, focusing on background music, BGM. The first secret allows you to select your preferred BGM during gameplay. By setting the controller to type B and pressing a VR view button, view 1 to 4, while starting a race, you can choose from 4 different tracks. The second secret is karaoke mode. In arcade mode with normal laps, press up and C on the course select screen to activate it. This mode adds lyrics to the BGM. The 4 BGM options are explained. Number 1, The King of Speed, is for beginners, without vocals. Number 2, Let's Go Away, for the medium course, features vocals and karaoke compatibility. Number 3, Sky High, for the advanced course. And number 4, Pounding Pavement, a hidden track, available only in karaoke mode. This page reveals more about hidden background music, BGM, in Daytona USA, accessible through the name entry screen. It explains that by entering specific 3-letter codes as your name when recording your race time, you can trigger nostalgic BGM from various Sega games. There are 2 lists of these codes. The first list is for hidden name entry BGM from the arcade version. Entering codes like H.O. plays Hang On, OR plays Outrun, PD plays Power Drift, versus F plays Virtua Fighter, and so on. It's a way to bring classic Sega tunes into Daytona USA. The second list is for original hidden name entry BGM, added to the Sega Saturn version. This list expands the BGM selection with even more tracks. Examples include BNB for Bonanza Bros, DST for Dunkshot, GDA for Golden Axe, TET for Tetris, and many more, including Daytona USA specific tracks, as well as tracks from other Sega Saturn games like Virtua Fighter 2 and Afterburner. This feature significantly increases the musical variety available when playing Daytona USA on the Sega Saturn. This page reveals some cool tricks and secrets in Daytona USA. First up, it talks about the replay mode. Apparently, in the Saturn version, if you complete a time attack race, you get the option to watch a replay of your run. This lets you check out your driving skills from different camera angles, including some special views that weren't in the arcade version. Next, it mentions the ending screen. If you manage to finish in the top 3 in any race, you get to see a special ending sequence. It hints at a hidden staff roll within the ending, and a neat trick is to repeatedly tap the start button to bring up the staff credits quicker. Finally, there's a section on driving in reverse. The game is apparently quite strict about going the wrong way. If you're driving backwards for too long, a message pops up saying you're going the wrong way, and even a voice will shout, "Reverse Daya!" in Japanese to scold you. It's a funny little detail the Saturn version adds. This page is all about secret techniques hidden in the Daytona USA courses. For the beginner course, 777 Speedway, there's a trick with the million slot arch. Apparently, if you hit the X button when you see the slot machines, you can stop them. If you manage to get 777 on the slots, you get a 7-second time boost, and bar gives you a 5-second boost. It mentions this only works in arcade mode, and the rightmost slot drum is the fastest, so you need to time it right. Moving on to the intermediate course, Dinosaur Canyon, there's a secret route if you drive in reverse. It talks about finding a pit road with a small bridge if you go backwards on this course. However, if you take this reverse route, you'll get a "You just lost your sponsors" message. This means if you're playing arcade mode and take this path, you'll lose your sponsors, making it impossible to finish the arcade mode properly. So it seems like a fun Easter egg, or a penalty for going off the intended track. This page continues with secret techniques. Now for the upper level course, which is called Seaside Street Galaxy, and includes areas like Pegasus Pasture and the statue of Jeffrey. First up, it talks about making the Jeffrey statue spin. Apparently, if you stop your car completely in front of the Jeffrey statue and then repeatedly hit the X button, the statue will start spinning. It even mentions that in arcade mode, it spins frame by frame, but in Saturn mode, it spins smoothly, which is described as amazing! Next, it reveals a secret about Jeffrey's statue being upside down. This is flagged as a surprising discovery. It says this is a hidden technique that was even in the arcade version. If you drive the upper course in reverse, on the second lap, Jeffrey's statue will be upside down. It notes this is quite a feat and requires skill, and might be fun to try in Time Attack or Saturn mode. Apparently, normally, Jeffrey has a dashing pose, but upside down, it looks kinda silly. Finally, there's a section about the Pegasus pasture area of the upper course. It mentions there are chestnut horses grazing there. If you suddenly drive towards them in your car, they'll get scared and run away from you. And if you keep chasing them, they will run off the course completely and disappear. The page ends by wondering where they actually go when they vanish. This page is a bonus pack special feature that aims to help you enjoy the world of Daytona USA even more. It looks like this section will cover everything to fully appreciate the game, from the history of Daytona itself to an interview with Mr. Nagoshi, the producer of the arcade version. It also mentions something called Karaoke Dojo, suggesting they are exploring all sorts of fun aspects related to Daytona USA. This page, continuing the Daytona USA bonus pack special feature, delves into the history of Daytona USA, tracing its origins from the arcade to the Saturn console. It points out that Daytona USA actually had several versions even before it hit arcades. The article highlights the AOU version, which was the very first public reveal of Daytona USA at a game show before it was released to game centers. It describes the initial Daytona USA arcade cabinet as a large, impressive motion type, built to provide a realistic driving experience, drawing comparisons to Namco's Ridge Racer series, which was popular at the time. The arcade version was officially released in April 1994. The page also mentions another, more common type of cabinet, which was a bit smaller and became widely popular, especially in places known as Black Mountains, suggesting a broader appeal. This page continues the history of Daytona USA, focusing on different versions of the game. First up is the Daytona USA Twin Cabinet, which, as the name suggests, is a two-player arcade cabinet. It highlights that this version allowed for player versus player racing from the start, and it was released in June of 1994. The page mentions it used a communication system for the two cabinets to link up for competitive play, and it also points out that the player car colors are different to easily distinguish between players on screen. Next, it talks about Daytona USA Special, which is a much larger cabinet type. This one was intended for amusement centers and could handle up to 8 players simultaneously for competitive play. It was quite impressive, but less common in general locations. The article notes that those who have actually played this version are likely few, and it made its debut at the 94 AM show. Finally, the page touches on the Sega Saturn version of Daytona USA, which was designed as a faithful port for home consoles. It aims to replicate the arcade experience, and even includes bonus features like a karaoke mode. It also mentions that it is compatible with a racing controller, and was released on April 1, 1995. There's a note at the bottom pointing to pages 57 to 66 for more details about the Saturn version and its bonus content. This page showcases the power of Sega's Model 2 arcade board, which was instrumental in creating games like Daytona. It highlights how Model 2 improved upon its predecessor with enhanced 3D graphics, polygon rendering, and texture mapping, leading to much more realistic visuals in arcade games. The page then presents a selection of games powered by Model 2. First up is Sega Rally Championship, a rally car driving game praised for its comfortable and unique driving feel. It's positioned as the newest racing title after Daytona USA, boasting beautiful Model 2 graphics. Next is Desert Tank, a tank battle action game that recreates tank warfare. It emphasizes the large, imposing tank models and the sense of pressure, with its realistic feel being a major talking point. Virtua Cop is introduced as a gun-shooting game, where players take down appearing enemies. It's described as hyper-realistic CG gun shooting, with a Sega Saturn version also in the works. The game uses zoom-up effects and polygon graphics for impressive visuals. Virtua Striker is highlighted as a polygon-based 3D soccer game, the latest creation from Sega AM2 Research. It's positioned as the newest entry in the Virtua series, and the ultimate soccer game experience. Finally, Virtua Fighter 2 is featured as an incredibly famous and self-explanatory fighting game. This title is also planned for a Sega Saturn release. The page mentions that it features 10 martial artists competing using their unique skills, and a sequel is already in development. This page delves into the history of Daytona USA, focusing on the real-world inspiration behind the game, the Daytona 500 race. It explains that the Daytona 500 is the pinnacle of stock car racing within the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, emphasizing that the Daytona USA game is rooted in this high-octane racing tradition. We see images of actual stock cars in action, numbers 29 and 28, plastered with sponsor logos like Meineke and Haoh, highlighting the intense oval track races that are a core part of American racing culture. The page then discusses how the game enhances realism through the use of stickers and signboards within the game environment. These elements, seen along the trackside, are designed to immerse players and create a more authentic Daytona experience. Below this, you can see a collection of logos and signs that appear in the game. There are logos for Sega game AM2 and Model 2, along with names of other classic Sega games like Outrun, Genesis, High-Speed Driving, and Pood Thunder. You'll also spot road signs like South Interstate 373 Orion Bay and Welcome to Andromeda Beach, all adding to the detailed and immersive world of Daytona USA. Toshihiro Nagoshi, producer of Daytona USA, discusses the game's inspiration from the Daytona 500. He aimed to capture the energy of American stock car racing, understanding that a fun game required balancing realism with engaging gameplay. Nagoshi emphasized the importance of self-testing to understand the game's appeal. Unlike other racing games of the time, Daytona USA embraced collisions, creating a dense and thrilling racing experience. This design choice, which encouraged close racing and car-to-car contact, was a key departure. Nagoshi's background as deputy department head at Sega Enterprises M2 and his work on previous racing games, including Virtua Racing, also played a role in his development of the game. This page continues the discussion on Daytona USA, diving into the game's design philosophy, particularly the AI and course creation. Nagoshi explains the virtual chasing system aimed to create exciting close races, moving beyond just avoiding walls and focusing on car-to-car interactions. The Arthur Car AI is described as being based on actual staff driving patterns, giving each car a distinct personality. He emphasizes that players should observe the opponent cars to understand their behavior. Regarding course design, Nagoshi mentions the initial beginner course was made to be easily recognizable at a glance, drawing inspiration from casino courses with their vibrant and memorable layouts. He then talks about the advanced Jeffrey course, revealing that a foreigner named Jeffrey from AM2 Research helped create Daytona. They wanted to include something special as a gift for players, initially considering signboard art, but then decided to incorporate Jeffrey into the game itself, in a Virtua Fighter style. Finally, Nagoshi gives a message to Saturn users, encouraging them to play games with dissatisfaction and to provide feedback, as this helps them improve future titles. This page is all about mastering Daytona karaoke. It's a guide on how to sing Daytona songs properly, whether you want to go hard or keep it refreshing. It mentions that the background music in the game, especially from Daytona USA, is very popular among fans and perfect for karaoke. The page breaks down how to read the karaoke lyrics, showing a section for "Oh Yeah Yeah," with instructions for 1 player and 2 players, suggesting parts for main vocals and backing vocals to enhance the karaoke experience with friends. The teacher's advice section highlights the importance of the first line in capturing the essence of Daytona's cool vibe. It recommends arranging the chorus in your own style, rather than just reading the lyrics plainly, to inject your unique flavor. The page also points out that the most important part of the song is the R-O at the beginning of Rolling Start, emphasizing to put your heart into pronouncing it correctly and singing with style. It mentions Rolling Start and the King of Speed as key phrases in the song. The person in the photo seems to be the karaoke teacher, giving tips on how to sing Daytona songs with style. There's also a note mentioning AM2 Research Sound Development Department, suggesting this person is from there and involved in the creation of Daytona USA's music. They are described as having worked on numerous game music tracks, including Daytona USA. This page focuses on the karaoke for the song Let's Go Away. It presents the lyrics, including parts like Daytona Let's Go Away, Daytona USA Go, and Way Hey Oh. There are also instrumental break sections indicated in the lyrics. Continuing the teacher's advice from the previous page, this section emphasizes singing the first phrase and chorus with your own unique style to capture the Daytona vibe. It highlights the importance of energetically pronouncing the 2 sounds in the lyrics. The page also gives a savvy point for singers, which is about taking breaths at the checkmark symbols in the lyrics, suggesting you should aim to sing the latter part of a phrase in 1 breath. The photo shows the karaoke teacher enthusiastically singing into a microphone. visually demonstrating how to put feeling into the song. A speech bubble in the image reinforces bringing out the groove in the chorus part. And another tip advises on how to pronounce the final na in the song with a rising intonation, while being careful not to strain your voice. Essentially, this page is providing specific guidance on how to perform Let's Go Away at karaoke with the right energy and style. This page continues with the teacher's advice section. Now for the song Sky High. The advice here is to sing energetically and brightly, and not to get caught up in the technicalities of singing perfectly. The teacher mentions it's an easy melody to remember, but it still requires practice to sing well. They also suggest making cool poses and using your whole body in your performance, not just standing still and singing. There's a section highlighting the phrase, blue blue skies, from the lyrics, encouraging you to imagine the blue sky as you sing it. The page also encourages you to think about cool poses, especially if you're singing with a girl you like. This page continues the teacher's advice section, this time for the song Pounding Pavement. The advice here encourages you to focus on the rhythm and groove of the song rather than perfect singing. It mentions that even if you mess up the lyrics, that's okay. Unlike Sky High, you should emphasize the powerful and hard aspects of the song. The page shows lyric snippets for Pounding Pavement with sections like 222 and Oh yeah. There's also a speech bubble exclaiming, Yeah, be energetic. Below that, it features Mitsuyoshi Sensei, who is enthusiastically singing Daytona USA. It mentions that Daytona USA on Next Generation Karaoke Pro Kara 21 isn't just karaoke, but something you can even play on Sega Saturn. It seems to be something really impressive. Mitsuyoshi Sensei, who's in charge of sound, talks about creating songs with vocals. He mentions that when making other songs, having only instrumental versions wasn't enough, so he started creating vocal versions. He mentions using game music, like from racing games, to add lyrics to it, and that Let's Go Away was his first song, and after that came Daytona. This page details how to make your own Hornet car papercraft model at 1/35th scale. It's a fun Dispy project where you can build your own miniature version of the iconic Daytona USA car. The page lists the tools you'll need, which are scissors, a cutter, and glue, so make sure to be careful when using the cutter. The instructions are laid out in 10 easy steps, guiding you through the process, from carefully cutting out the parts, to assembling the tires, body, bonnet, bumpers, roof, and finally attaching the wheels to complete your Hornet Go. It even suggests making a color copy and gluing it to cardboard for a sturdier model. For the actual parts and more detailed assembly instructions, you'll need to refer to pages 80 and 81. It's a cool way to bring a piece of Daytona USA into the real world. Play with your Hornet papercraft car. First, admire it from various angles and take photos to create a Daytona collection. Then, for a more involved experience, try adding a motor using rubber bands to make it run. Be careful not to damage your model. For outdoor fun, take your Hornet to a playground and let it zoom down a slide, experiencing the thrill of speed. Be cautious to avoid accidents. Alternatively, head to a sandbox and imagine your car on a racetrack, creating racing lines and drifting. Remember, don't bury your car in the sand to avoid damage. This page is a papercraft template to build your own Hornet high-class car, number 41, from Daytona USA. The page shows all the parts you need to cut out and assemble, including the spoiler, tail, front and rear bumpers, and the main body. It's clearly marked with Daytona USA branding and logos, and includes Japanese labels to guide you on how to fold and glue it together. The next page continues the papercraft template for the Daytona USA Hornet car. It focuses on the tires, showing templates for both front and rear tires. Each tire component includes the wheel and tire itself, designed to be cut out and assembled with glue tabs marked as Nori, meaning glue. There are also instructions in a point box explaining how to assemble the papercraft pieces for a clean finish, suggesting using tools for folding. This page is a copyright and publishing information page for the Daytona USA guidebook. It lists the contributors for different sections, such as composition, cover, text layout, and cooperation, naming, and along with Sega Enterprises and the second AM Research and Development Department. It clearly states this is a 27, which is part of a series, and specifically for Sega Saturn. The book title, Daytona USA, is prominently displayed. It mentions that the price is indicated on the cover. The publication details follow, stating it was issued on June 24, 1995, and is the first edition, published by From. The address is given as 1120121221. Phone numbers are listed for the editorial and sales departments. The printing and binding companies are also mentioned as and respectively. Finally, the copyright notice Kodansha 1995, printed in Japan, along with warnings about damaged books, unauthorized copying, and the ISBN code ISBN 4,063,292,274. This page presents an image featuring two white racing cars, with Hornet high-class logos prominently displayed. The cars are on a track and appear to be from the Daytona USA game, consistent with the context of the guidebook. The image seems to be a screenshot from the game, showcasing the in-game car models and racing environment. This page is the back cover of the guidebook, and features a racing scene from Daytona USA, similar to the previous page, with Hornet high-class cars speeding around a track. Below the image, there is Japanese text indicating the price as 950 yen, and copyright information for 1994 and 1995, belonging to Sega Enterprises Limited. There are also publication numbers and a barcode at the bottom of the page.